If you had to imagine the perfect sniper shot, it would probably look like this scene from Day of the Jackal. The Jackal aims patiently, in full control of his body under stress, and he makes his shot. Dead on, from an insane 2.4 miles away. There's just one problem. This isn't a perfect shot. We'll see exactly why that is soon enough. For now, just remember that shooting like this would likely get the Jackal to miss the shot and get killed in short order. The writers just did not notice, because Hollywood knows nothing about snipers.
That's right.
When I was a platoon leader in the military, I learned about the importance and performance of snipers, so I get why Hollywood loves them. I love them too. There are few displays of skill as elegant as hitting a target from sometimes literally thousands of yards away. But being myself a long-range shooter for decades, I know the ins and outs of what actually makes sniping work. Here I am shooting at 600 yards and 1250 yards. And what you see on screen, it's probably not gonna work. Just look at this. Sniping is easy. Physics? Never heard of her. All the snipers I spent time with were highly capable professionals, but they weren't like this half man, half rifle. Here's Will Smith in the movie Gemini, making a shot against a target in a speeding train 2,000 yards away. He even adjusts on the fly with perfect vision to avoid shooting a little kid. It's easy to look at what this screen has, you can't miss it, but only a few people will stop to look at what this screen does not have. Bullets drop a lot. The wind matters. Gravity matters. At that distance, even the Earth's rotation matters. And this thing had none of that, which means Will Smith would not be able to make that shot. Here's just one thing to consider. Will Smith is using a 700 PSS rifle with 300 Winchester Magnum ammunition. At 2,000 yards, you can expect this round to drop by over 100 feet. That's the equivalent of a 10-story building. And that's in calm conditions, by the way.
Oh, wow!
At the distance Will Smith was at, good luck. Even trying the shot without a calculator and maybe a little bit of divine intervention. I am still ignoring that his target was on a train speeding at about 150 miles an hour because I'm trying to be nice. I can be nice another way though. His scope looked advanced. Could that have saved him here? Science fiction scopes. Let's look at that shot again. Will Smith adjusted his aim on the fly to not hit a little kid.
Clear. Confirm.
Also easily and quickly. Sure, the distance was ungodly and he had divine head. Especially at that speed, he had a time interval of 4 thousandths of a second to adjust his aim. Enter the magic scope. Hollywood scopes are like magic windows into faraway lands. They allow you to see perfectly, clearly, whatever the distance is. In fact, thanks to its help, you can count the nose hair on the bad guy miles away.
My nose is too small. I mean, it still works. I can smell things.
It's not like that in real life. Would Will Smith be able to tell a little kid apart from a sitting bad guy at the range he was at? Absolutely not. In addition to the moving train, you can see that clearly in your scope at those distances. At 100 yards away, you can see minor details well, but as the distances increases, your vision will get blurrier even with a very good scope. Up to 300 yards away, using a 10x scope, you will see clear details, including facial features, like a big wart on the cheek.
Wait, what?
And weapons. At 1500 yards, you will see small silhouettes with minimum details. At Will Smith's range, you will barely see very small silhouettes.
Yes, well, when I see 5 weirdos dressed in togas stamping a guy in the middle of the park in full view of 100 people, I shoot the bastards. That's my policy.
That was a Shakespeare in the Park production of Julius Caesar, you moron.
The scene did not even hint as the fact that you would not be able to see the difference between a standing child and a sitting man, because Hollywood scopes are like something out of Star Trek. They include unlimited magnifications, digital overlays with fine target tracking, plus real-time wind information, and anything else you could ever need. Maybe that will happen someday, but it's not now. Don't get me wrong, modern scopes have advanced features, like visual information for elevation and windage adjustments. However, these adjustments have to be made by moving the reticle manually. You can't just click something on the fly in your display.
But it's fun!
There's no escape. It is physically impossible to make the shot Will Smith just made. So much for the Hollywood coolness, at least for here.
But wait! There's more!
But there's something else that snipers do in Hollywood that is really cool, and at least more realistic. A little. One shot or two, one kill, maybe. Here's Mark Wahlberg making mincemeat out of an enemy column in Shooter. As far as shooting goes, it's at least a lot more believable than what Will Smith just did. But talk to any sniper and they'll tell you how absurd this is, because they actually intend of making it back home safely.
Please disperse! Nothing to see here, please!
Now, to be fair, Mark Wahlberg and his partner were set up. But the setup was absurd because a trained sniper like him would know better than to shoot more than once from the same location. At best, he could have shot twice, but only if he really needed to. Anything more than that, and well, he should have known he'd be asking for what he got. Machine guns everywhere, lobbying and mortars shelling his position. It'd be even worse off now, thanks to drones becoming as common on the battlefield as 15-year-old girls at a Taylor Swift concert. Being detected is the biggest threat to your retirement. In modern warfare, this will be followed by an artillery or missile strike, which will obliterate everything in your zip code. And look at what he and his partner were doing. This looked more like an Overwatch mission than an engagement mission. Unless there was a high-value target, a HVT, in that convoy, Wahlberg and his partner likely would not have shot at all. But there is one thing that this scene gets right. Can you spot it? Let me know in the comments if you can. And since you're here, just consider subscribing. It really helps me to keep doing videos like this. The Lone Wolf. I can shoot targets at pretty long ranges myself. Here I am, doing it at 1,000 and 1,250 yards. But I would not be doing it like this if I was on a sniping mission. Before you say that these guys are better shots than me, remember that in movies snipers are lone wolves, like Batman with a big rifle. They eat protein powder with a spoon and take a 1-mile shot without backup or a snack.
No food?
Most snipers work in pairs, like we saw earlier in Shooter. And so the shooter is only one part of the team. Why? Because that guy that was with Mark Wahlberg, whose name you don't know, is actually a vital element in the mission's success. That is the spotter. And spotters are critical in terms of target observations and evaluation. They make ballistic calculations, estimate the dreaded wind and other elements, and they adjust for potential misses. They do all the math that Will Smith pretended to do in Gemini, so that the shooter can focus on the things they need to do, such as controlling their breathing, and their trigger, and the recoil. No spotter, no math. No math, no hit at those ranges you just saw, let alone like the hit the Jackal made at the start of the video. And a lot of time it's not even just a two-man team. Mark Wahlberg and his spotter were unfortunate, not just because they were set up, but because they didn't have anybody else around to watch their backs. That will often be the case if their superiors can help it. What happens if there's no third man available? It means the shooter and spotter will need to have a lot of claymores, around their position to protect them, which really just means more weight to carry. Leave their typical load of between 60 pounds and 120 pounds is not enough. Because in reality, snipers are not ninjas.
Let's go for it!
In Hollywood, snipers hang from ceilings, peek out of windows with giant barrels, and shoot in the middle of a backflip. No one sees them ever, even with the loud noises and the flash. They're like ghosts, well, with gym membership.
Now that's scary!
But can you do that carrying close to 100 pounds of gear? I'll bet not. Snipers have one thing in common with ninjas, at least. They both emphasize concealment.
Please close your eyes, turn around, and count to 9. When you open them, I will be gone.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
They have two or both would be dead. But for a sniper, it goes beyond what you might see in movies. Customized ghillie suits like John Cena and his friend are wearing here in the wall. Absolutely, the movie got that right. By the way, a great and gritty movie. Snipers need to keep themselves and their rifles camouflaged at all times. That means absolutely, positively, no hanging from trees and no green camouflage in brown leaves.
Please, no! No!
If snipers are indoors, they likely need to shoot from far inside the room, safely away from the windows. Maybe they'll get a tripod, or if they're lucky enough to have a 5-star hideout, a massage table. Ooh. But in a sniper's case, a 5-star hider still cannot have electricity. You're smart enough to know what keeping a light on would mean. Some movies get it a little right. The Jackal made his shot from far away from the window in a dark room, and Bradley Cooper in American Sniper did it too. But have you noticed another thing these movies never show? It's an everyday item, something like a plastic water bottle. First, to drink from.
Replenish your fluids.
Then to pee in.
I got 56 ounces of fluid in my bladder, and we have to establish a pee corner.
Snipers need to remain steady for many hours or more in the same spot.
I'm hiding from my kids under the bed. But when I'm not hiding, I'm usually just getting by.
Which means an almost ungodly amount of patience and focus, and putting up with some very uncomfortable things. A lot of the people that fail sniper courses in the military fail because they can't summon that level of discipline. You never see that part emphasized in the movies. Hollywood snipers just show up and make spectacular shots, when in reality that shot is only the result of countless hours of training and discipline.
Pulling the trigger will become an unconscious effort. You will be aware of it, but not directing it. And as you exhale, you find your natural respiratory pause and the space between heartbeats.
Okay, I get it to an extent. Few of us would want to see someone doing their business in a plastic bottle.
Brother,
But a little bit more focus on the sheer discipline involved in a shot like this one in Shooter would actually help to show why it is so important that the shot gets made successfully. But did you notice something else about that shot just now? No recoil, no noise, and big booms. Mark Wahlberg was using a 408 Chi-Tac sniper rifle, and there was almost no recoil. That is alternate universe physics, especially with no suppressor. A rifle like that, or a smaller one for that matter, comes with significant recoil. And yes, it does affect the shooter's ability to lay down sustained accurate fire. All those shots you saw from Mark Wahlberg against that convoy combine the recoil of his rifle with the retaliation coming his way, and it's very likely he would not be picking them off like flies the way he did. Also, have you ever seen a sniper make a shot in a movie and walk away like it was nothing, like no one heard the shot? That would not happen either. Modern suppressors help to deal with both noise and recoil, but even with one, it won't eliminate these problems. But wait a minute, does Hollywood completely ignore recoil? No way. Here is a scene from Smoking Aces where the shooter is getting knocked back. The movie tried to do the right thing here, but it did the right thing wrong. Bullets are not bombs from a B-2 bomber. Even the bigger caliber rounds will not throw you backwards into the next room or make you explode. In reality, snipers often describe the impact as having the bullet suck you in rather than knock you over. I can't think of a single movie or show that's ever done it that way. Can you? And there's something else that recoil never seems to affect. Absurd shooting positions. Take a look here at Tom Cruise transforming his flute into a sniper rifle. But that's not the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing is this shot from this sort of standing, sort of crouching position. It only gets stranger from here. Here's a movie showing a sniper shooting while standing in a moving helicopter with no support. Those might be some of the most extreme examples. What do you think would happen to you if you try shooting a sniper rifle that way? The recoil would probably make you miss, to say the least. Snipers need stable positions, either prone, sitting, or kneeling. Support is also critical, whether it's a bipod, a tripod, or something else. And no hanging from trees, please. And there's something else that Hollywood snipers do that you should never ever imitate, because it's a lot worse. Hollywood characters often aim with their face either very close or very far from the scope. Too close will give you a black eye and a bleeding face. Too far means you will not be able to see clearly through the scope. A few inches or fraction of an inch will make a huge difference. People learn that early in their training, but sadly, Hollywood movies don't bother to bring in professionals to teach that very basic thing. That's too bad, because firing positions become really important when you use big rifle, especially the one Hollywood loves the most. You probably know about it. It is the king of cool, the 50 cal, the king of cool. Hollywood loves the 50 cal. It is big, it is powerful, it is scary, it is impossible to ignore. It makes people explode into next week. There's just a couple of problems. The 50 cal was designed for power, not extreme long-range precision. It is the 50 BMG round. It was designed not for pinpoint shooting. Just the opposite. The legendary gun designer John Browning saw what was happening during World War I. And he realized that America's existing 30 caliber machine guns were not going to cut it against enemy aircraft, let alone other things. So he designed the 50 round you just saw Mark Wahlberg shoot. That's why BMG stands for Browning Machine Gun, hence the 50 BMG. In other words, it is an anti-material round, not an anti-personal round. Does it work on people? Of course, if you can hit them. Some of the longest verified sniper kills have been because of it. However, it is not that precise, and those shots involve a lot of skills, but also a lot of luck. And it's probably not going to be a modern sniper's round of choice, especially if the mission is to take out a high-value person, when you can only shoot one round. Plus, HVTs tend to have a lot of security, and 50 caliber sniper rifles like the one Mark Wahlberg used are heavy.
I accept that I'm big, okay?
A 50 cal rifle weighs as much as 30 pounds without the scope, with an overall length of almost 60 inches. The rounds are also heavy. Just one weighs 4 ounces. Guess what happens when you have to carry several magazines? I took a long-distance class many years ago where I was the only one with a 338 Magnum and everybody else had a 50 cal. When we were schlepping a rifle to shoot extreme long distances in the middle of nowhere, the other guys looked at me with envy because I was happy I had much less to carry and still got the same results. So that size and weight is going to make that delicate positioning and quick getaway much harder to do.
This is hard! I am in a pickle!
Now you might see why many military snipers prefer other ones, like the 338 Lapua Magnum, which I love. It was designed for long-range sniping, as great ballistic, and better, it is much easier to move around with. But if snipers need to reach out and touch something much further away, there are new rounds that have become available, such as the 375 Enabler or the 416 Barrett, one of my favorite rifles. But since they are not yet famous, you probably won't see them in a lot of movies. Which is too bad, because they'd probably be more appropriate for some of the extreme long-range shots we see. And they can shoot extreme long distances indeed. Extreme range shots. We have finally come back to where we started with. The Jackal, who hit his target from 2.4 miles away. That is probably because of the publicity given to the alleged recent ultra-long range sniper shots from Ukraine. So they had to make it look as cool. First, the round used for long-distance sniping are big and powerful, so they can reach out far away with still plenty of energy when reaching the target. The Jackal was not using a round like that for good reason. It'd never be able to get around a high security area undetected with the necessary equipment. It wasn't in a war zone. That means it'd never be able to make the shot. But there's also only so many things the shooter can do at that long of a range. Hollywood loves portraying characters like the Jackal as being able to make shots from extreme ranges just because they're that good. But at that range, even the best snipers need a lot of luck on their side.
Good luck.
The weather, wind, air density, and the appropriate target have to align. In some cases, at these extreme ranges, many shots were fired, and one of them happened to hit a guy who happened to be at the right place and did not move for several seconds. Remember, a large caliber bullet will take about 3 seconds to travel 2,000 yards. A much shorter distance that we just saw from the Jackal, where the bullet would probably have to travel 6 to 8 seconds. So it's not like these extreme shots were made against deliberate, well-chosen targets. It's more like a twist of fate. A good sniper on a specific mission, someone like the Jackal, will want to get closer. Even if you figure out all the variables and execute that perfect shot, there are still some physical limitations in terms of accuracy. In general, you have about a 3 feet by 3 feet window of built-in inaccuracy at 2,000 yards. This is roughly the size of targets used in ELR, extreme long range competitions, at 2,000 yards. At 4,000 yards, the target is about 5 feet by 5 feet, the size of a small car. That is the minimum. Then you have to add weather, wind, and so on. When you're that far out with something like a 50 caliber, which is not the rifle the Jackal was using, you will be able to hit the size of a pickup truck, but you will not be able to predict precisely which door or panel you will hit. So would the Jackal be able to make that perfect shot? In a word, no. By the way, this is also why snipers will usually aim center mass, the torso. It's the biggest part of the human body with all of the vital organs except the brain. So snipers will rely on the bullets to do their job and take the enemy out even if they miss the exact part they intended to shoot. Snipers are not the headshot artists that they are in movies. It's not so simple to hit a pimple on the face of a bad guy a mile away. At the distance the Jackal was at, he'd be lucky to see the shape of his target's body. I get why Hollywood wants to get the reality of being in a Gatorade bottle on a mission.
Brother,
Although it can raise the stakes, chances are you're more interested in seeing a spectacular headshot 2 miles away. Just don't believe that it's so easy to do in reality. The Jackal probably would not survive long in a real battle if this was his plan. Snipers are not superhumans. They are highly trained, highly skilled specialists. With calculators and the patience of sense.
You have to have the heart of an angel and the hide of an elephant.
That's how you really get to be a sniper. Thank you for watching. And have you seen a more realistic sniper scene? Be sure to let me know in the comments.